xTool's newest laser is actually an enhanced version of an existing product called the xTool P2. This is the P2S, a CO2 laser that has fundamentally the same cabinetry. You can pull the crumb tray in and out to empty it. All of the safety features that are on the P2 are also on the P2S. And that means I'm not going to do a full review because I've already covered this laser. And if you haven't seen my P2 video, click up in the corner here and go watch that video. But then you're going to want to come back because what I'm going to talk about in this video is all of the enhancements that make the P2S an enhanced version of the P2. And once I cover that, then I'll do a couple of projects and you can get a feel for some of the improvements in this laser and what they mean to your project. So let's get started. xTool pays a lot of attention to users, which is how this laser came about. They interviewed 380 existing P2 users and said, what would you change or what would you improve? And they built this list of features that became the P2S. And a lot of these features that they've improved are kind of subtle, but we'll start with a couple that are obvious. First one you'll notice is on the back of the laser, there's this big button, and if you push it, you can actually remove the entire fan module. Now this fan module has been improved. It's 14,000 RPM versus 7 on the P2. It's also got 2 fans in it, so you get about 200% efficiency compared to the P2, so a lot better suction. And then on the inside of the laser, they've added these simply removable filters. They're just held on by magnets, and you can pull them off and you can clean them, wash them. And that's basically what's on the other side of that fan module. So all in all, evacuation of the laser has been improved dramatically. And when I was testing it, I could actually watch smoke just literally getting actively sucked away. And that was pretty impressive. So the next upgraded feature is more subtle, and that's because it's built inside the cabinet of the laser, and that's the addition of a dual cylinder air pump for effectively doubling the amount of airflow to the work whenever you're doing engraving and cutting. What that really means is that you can generally cut a whole lot cleaner, and most likely you'll be able to cut slightly thicker material as well as a result of this. Now, from my own experience as I was making projects for this video, I did notice a distinct lack of smoke on cuts especially, and I was quite pleased with that because my own DIY laser tends to leave some smoke there on the material, and I end up masking quite often, so this is a really nice touch. Now, unlike a diode laser where all the optics are in one little canister, the laser module, a CO2 laser typically has a bunch of mirrors, one coming off the tube that's at the back of the laser, moves the beam forward, and then across the gantry to a mirror that turns the beam down through a lens and then to the work surface. And that means that you potentially have to do some alignment. This might be the case when you take it out of the box. If it got bumped during shipping extra hard, you might have to do some alignment. Now, the good news is xTool makes this alignment process really simple. The first thing you want to do is validate the path, and that's really just a test to see if the beam is actually in the right place. So you hit the first button in the wizard and it moves the laser module to the front right, and you put a piece of tape on the last hole in the beam path, which is the one just before the final mirror, and hit the pulse button, and then look at the burn mark. And if it's inside the hole, you're okay. If it's not, then you have to do a much more detailed process. And that's basically a simple matter of going through each mirror and doing a very similar operation. And that's just a case of following the wizard to align each mirror individually. So you start with a piece of tape on the first hole, which determines whether the first mirror is right. So if the beam is coming out of that first hole, then the first mirror is okay. And then you do the second mirror, a piece of tape on the output side of that. And again, a test pulse and look for positioning. And then finally you do that third mirror again. So all in all, it's pretty simple, but you have to realize at any point you may have to loosen off the screws for the mirrors and do some adjustment to make sure that you can get the beam through the next hole in the process. But it's really not that intimidating. xTool has a really good video on how to do this, and you can do this. Trust me, it's really not that difficult. So that in itself is a bold statement, because CO2 lasers are notoriously hard to align. This one is easy by comparison. So with the laser all set up and I've done the alignment check, it seems to be okay. I just wanted to do a really simple project to make sure that the P2S is performing the way it should. So I dropped my logo onto the workspace and onto a piece of birch plywood, hardware store plywood, and put an outline around it so that there's a cut. Now I'm going to pick 6mm basswood plywood here, which should be okay. It's it's close enough because all I'm going to do is engrave. So the logo will be an engrave and the outline will be a cut. And I shot it over to the laser, pushed the start button, and I'm showing you the engrave here and the cut. This is about 30 times normal speed. It took about 5 minutes or something. So came out really nice, and it just popped right out of the material, and you can see the edges are really clean, engraving's nice and crisp, and all in all, very nice first test of the P2S. Next, I wanted to look at one of the enhanced features of the P2S, and that's Smart Fill 2.0. They basically improved that process where you can drop a bunch of parts on the workspace and through a bit of AI detect where those parts are and the orientation they're in, and then place your image or your artwork on a single part and then have it engraved across all of the parts. And I just dropped a couple of key tags down on my workspace here, and I'm going to use the close-up camera to select the one I put my logo on, and then I'll go over and pick batch fill, and that will allow me to detect all of the other parts there. And when I hit that and select the part where my image is, then it will go and detect all of the rest of them, and it'll put the logo in the right orientation. I sent it over to the laser, and you can see it came out remarkably well. So this is a really nice feature. It's definitely been improving over time. The first time I looked at this on the F1 Ultra, it wasn't working all that well, but it had then improved by the time the Ultra was released, and now on the P2S it just works remarkably well. So if you have volume to do, this is a perfect feature for you on the P2S. So the last key feature I want to talk about here on the P2S is 3D curved engraving. Now this feature has been kind of bouncing around in XCS for a while, but it continues to improve. And in the case of the P2S and the current version of XCS, this has improved to perfection. Basically, it does exactly what you want. And what this essentially allows you to do is put an arbitrarily curved surface material on your workspace and then map the curve and engrave over that curve so that the laser is always in focus. It seems simple, but I'm sure there's a lot of math going on here. So what I did was drop a nice curved seashell on my workspace, and I'm going to go and select curved material here away from the slats. And then what I need to do is find the corner, upper left corner and lower right corner of the material, so I know where I can engrave, and I can manually move the laser around, and when I'm happy I can just go click the mark there, and then I can go to the other corner and mark that one as well. And when I'm done, what I end up with is a rectangle of material, and then XCS will go and determine what the curve over that area is. And it goes and calculates all the points and then shows you the curve. And that's kind of neat. And what you get out of it is a rectangle that you can use for your engraving. So I'm just going to put a piece of text in here, and I'll engrave it on the surface of the shell across that contour and send it over to the laser. This is sped up about, I don't know, 10 times I think, and you can see when it's done, everything here is perfectly on the curve, and it just looks remarkable. And I think this is such an awesome feature. So I'll try and wind down here, but I'll say that the P2S from xTool is a major step up from the P2. There's a lot of nice new features here, and things that also are included on the P2 work faster here as a whole. There's different acceleration on the P2S, so especially small engraving goes quite a bit faster than it does on the P2. But both of these lasers are stand alone in the CO2 market in that 40 to 55 watt range. There's new lasers out there all the time. The Atom Stack Hurricane is one, for example. This laser eclipses the capability of that laser. It's a bigger workspace, and it has all these extra features like curved engraving and smart fill, which you don't get on the Hurricane. Anyway, I'll put an affiliate link in the description down below for both the P2 and the P2S. If you're interested in picking one up, you can use those links. I'd appreciate that. And you'll help out the channel. Now, I will also be using this laser on a regular basis in my shop going forward because I did need another CO2 laser. I've just got too much work going on right now. And you will see this laser, and when I use it on projects, I will call it out and I'll show you what this laser can do on real world projects. And with that, I'll wind down and I'll say get out there, make your world, and I'll see you next time.